Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to Heat Breakdown. Apologies for the long delay in breakdowns, but it's been pretty hectic coaching the team that I have. And that said, it has nothing to do with the fact that the Heat are doing well. I'm ecstatic for them. However, let's not get carried away. They're beating teams they're supposed to beat. The aggregate record of all the teams they've beaten in this 8-game win streak is still a losing one. And except for the Jazz, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But that's okay. They're coming together as a team. They look like they're enjoying playing with each other more, and they're getting a little bit more focused and have more direction while they're playing on the floor. On the opposite side, the Hornets have been really fading after their hot start, and CP3 certainly doesn't look happy with what's going on the floor. Let me show you what I mean. The Heat now go to Bosh on the right side of the floor to start the game and let him get off, which is a good idea. Here he goes off glass, and then he fades to the baseline and hits a nice little jumper. This wasn't a good game for Chris Paul. They run their typical sideline screen and roll, and they're going to force Bosh to choose between two men going to the basket. West steps in, but it's a bad pass from Chris Paul, who normally makes that. And finally, a 2-on-1 with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, but they screw it up royally, and the Hornets get the ball back. The latest wrinkle in the Heat offense is Dwayne Wade getting a shuffle cut across the middle. Here he gets the ball, a little bit of a shot fake, and he gets a foul. Bosh is dangerous because he can pull up on the break and hit long jumpers when his man isn't ready to guard him. After some very good Bosh defense in the post against David West, you'll see why Carlos Arroyo is not a starting point guard and shouldn't be going to the basket like this. And they're going to call a play, and Arroyo does not throw it to Z, and you can see him get upset. So when Bosh shoots it, he doesn't even go in for the rebound. And guess where the ball went? Right where Z would have been. Here's a mixture of pretty good team defense by Miami and also very sluggish offense by the Hornets. Chris Paul should have gotten a screen seconds ago, but instead, West is slow getting over there, and they swing the ball nicely, but with Z down there, they can block a shot or two. I have a feeling West would have gotten a call on one of these shots if they were in New Orleans. Here's some good spacing by the Miami Heat. By putting everybody on the left side, Chris Paul is forced to choose between helping or staying home at Arroyo, who gets an open shot, and Chris Paul is pissed. Speaking of spacing, Chris Paul backs up and spreads everybody out, and the Heat have no hope to get out there for Bellinelli's shot. In transition, watch how Chris Bosh follows the ball and then forgets to pick up his man as he runs by. Z is pointing it out. He doesn't get over there until it's way too late, and the Z cannot hope to close out against West and stop him there without getting a foul. Here's something cool the Hornets are doing. They're in a 2-3 zone to start, but as soon as the ball gets below the free throw line and comes back out, they switch to a man-to-man. It's really cool stuff, and it stymied the Heat for a little bit of this game. Of course, they simply go to a screen and roll with LeBron, let him isolate against Okafor, and pull up for a jumper. The announcers are going to talk about the Hornets' zone defense, but it's a man-to-man if you watch their positioning. So this is confusing to everybody, even the Heat, and they can't decide what offense to go to.
It's a 1-point Heat lead, and the Heat continue to operate cautiously against this zone defense.
You see they get very little movement and no penetration and have to burp up a bad shot. The Heat need more practice in transition defense. Watch how LeBron lets his man cut right in front of him and get a layup. The Heat are also doing much more isolation to LeBron in the post. And against the bottom half of the league, this is going to be real easy scores for him. The problem with playing a 2-3 zone too much is that the team gets used to it, and here the Heat finally get good spacing and a lot of penetration against that porous zone, and Dampier gets a layup. That shouldn't happen against a zone like that. Mario Chalmers has more dedication on defense these days. While they score here, he takes away a pass that's part of their offense. The Hornets don't have CP3 in, so they resort to the Michigan State curl offense, which I really like. They curl around, they do a dribble pitch, but they get it stripped from behind. A good pursuit by, you got it, Mario Chalmers again with great hands. They come right down, and Wade had a hot hand all night hitting shots that are difficult like that. Watch how great this Chris Paul move is. As they come to set a screen and roll, it's supposed to be a screen on the left side of Chalmers, but he does an inside-out move, and it becomes a back screen. He splits the defenders, gets up in the air, and then dumps it off to the roller for a layup. That's beautiful stuff. The Heat let the Hornets hang around and even have a lead in the first half because the defense wasn't quite perfect. Watch how Wade gets blown by, and they get a layup out of this. Their weak side defense was suspect too. Look at LeBron James. He gets way too close to the ball handler instead of guarding his own man, who slips in back door for a layup. Here's the same exact play, but watch Wade's effort. LeBron is in better position, but Wade does not close out at all and then gets beaten, and they get a layup. Miami's defense let the Hornets move the ball at will across the perimeter, and here you'll see West get the ball in the post and hit a nice jumper. I just don't think Juwan Howard has the ability to really guard guys like that down there anymore. The Hornets go back into his zone, and they get a little bit of movement across the perimeter, and then they screen and roll the guard, which is nice, and then Wade fades to the corner, and he hits a very tough shot. I'm sure the Hornets don't mind him taking that shot. And here's that amazing shot from behind the backboard. And this shot used to not be legal. Does anyone here know who put the rule in originally that banned the ball from going over the backboard like that? The answer is Tex Winter. When he was coaching at K-State, he had to go up against a player named Wilt Chamberlain at Kansas. And there he used to have an out-of-bounds play where they would throw the ball over the backboard and Wilt could catch it in the air and dunk it. Well, you couldn't stop that, so Tex started putting chicken wire above his rim so they couldn't throw that pass. And eventually he got that rule changed where the ball may not cross over the top of the backboard. And only recently did they put that back, and we saw Kobe make a shot like this and now LeBron. Late in the third quarter, the Hornets tried to get away with keeping Chris Paul on the bench for rest, but they got quite a few possessions that looked a lot like this. No penetration, bad spacing, and bad shots when the shot clock was going down. You think Chris Paul is liking his time in New Orleans right now? We're into the fourth quarter, the game is slipping away from New Orleans, and Chris Paul is still on the bench, and they're making plays like this. Another wrinkle the Miami Heat offense has is they'll do zipper cut with LeBron and leave him all by himself to penetrate and kick to Bosh in the corner. Worked pretty well there. Down 11, they call a timeout with 10.5 to go in the fourth quarter. You'd think, okay, CP3 is coming in, but nope. They run the same zipper play isolating LeBron on top, and he penetrates, and this is why I would give Chris Bosh a jumper in the fourth quarter. Yowzers. And they do it again, the high post to Chris Bosh. He'll take another outside jumper and clank it off the rim as well. I'd much rather have him do this than going to the basket and getting fouls and rebounds. But Bosh keeps playing and does a fantastic block with his left hand in the open court, and Miami races back down. New Orleans is actually in position with 3 defenders, but Okafor gets blown right by for a layup. Down 11, CP3 must be frustrated, especially because he had to sit in the bench for so long, and he fires a bad pass that he normally makes. It gets tipped, Wade ends up with it, and they come down looking to score. A simple screen and roll for him, Okafor relies on his shot blocking ability, and he can't come through, and Wade scores on him. The offense starts falling apart, and Chris Paul stops creating. He gets it to Ariza, who simply sits there with the ball through his legs a few times and takes a really bad shot going to the basket, which he misses. And if you haven't figured it out by now, Dwayne Wade owns the left baseline. He does most of his damage there, and this is no different as he ices the game with the jump shot. So there you have it, folks. The Miami Heat are taking care of business against the teams they're supposed to. And don't forget, in February, they have, I think, 9 of 11 games against losing teams. And so they have a chance to go on a bigger win streak then. That said, they still have a problem with transition defense. And I still think that Chris Bosh is too much in love with his outside jumper and needs to get on the post a lot more. But they look like they're recognizing where their situations are that they can be successful, and they're working toward it. So this is probably what everyone was expecting. A slower start, they're going to get used to each other, and now they're coming into their own. They add Mike Miller, who looks like he's about to come back soon, and if they could somehow get Haslam back, then they can maybe compete for something. Well, thanks for joining us on Heat Breakdown. Stay tuned. We got the Celtics going on right now. We'll see what happens then. And we'll break down even more for the Miami Heat. Because don't forget, at Heat Breakdown, it's not a channel, it's a conversation.